Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Rich Woman Rising podcast for 2025. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying that, but here we are. My name's Eloise Tompkins, and I'm a money coach and psychologist. And I love helping women to heal their relationship with money by finding the subconscious root cause of what is holding you back. And the way that I do that is by tapping into the body, which is something that as women we have been so disconnected from, which stems back way back when into our childhoods. And if you listen to the podcast or follow my work, you know that the subconscious, our childhood, they're all things that I like to talk about quite a lot because they have a huge impact on the decisions that we're making in our business today. They're having a huge impact on our relationship with money today. And a lot of the time, we as women like to focus on the logical, rational, surface level solutions that we think are going to heal our relationship with money because they feel more comfortable. And the work that I do often doesn't feel particularly comfortable. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable. But you know what? One of the things that I always like to say is comfortable isn't going to get you to financial freedom. Because at the end of the day, we need to feel our feelings. And if we don't feel our feelings, then you are doing yourself and your business a disservice. And that's something that I want to talk about today. And so Ellie, take a step back. I get really passionate about this, and I'm really excited to share this episode with you. And one of the things that I want to do with you today is take you through a bit of a practical exercise to help you understand yourself and your emotions and your body so that you can go into 2025 from a place of being grounded and not burning yourself out, not getting to March, April, May, June and going, oh my gosh, why the fuck am I so burnt out? Because this time of year, like the new year period, is a really fascinating time for me because as a high achiever, I am constantly looking ahead. And I have to remind myself to look back at where I've come from and what I've achieved. And I suspect that it might be similar for you. And often, what I see in my high achieving clients is this real inner critic that comes out at the end of the year that looks back over the past 12 months and says, you didn't achieve enough. You could have done more. There was more opportunity. Why didn't you take it? Why didn't you get to all of the goals that you said you were going to? And then it also says, well, that's okay. 2025, that's going to be our year. And that's when we're going to achieve all of our goals. And then we start to put these really wild, audacious goals in place. And look, I have no problem with wild goals. I set them myself. I encourage my clients to set them. However, what I do not uh, like is when we set goals that are going to just completely fry our nervous system. And I think we need to find a way to balance both. But I think that what we really struggle with is being able to identify, well, how do I know when my nervous system is starting to feel a bit frazzled? And often what we recognize is when our nervous system is feeling frazzled, we're at that point of, oh my fucking God, I am so overwhelmed and I need a break. Like, otherwise, I'm going to burn out. Otherwise, like, I'm going to burn my business down. And like, no, can't do it anymore. I don't want you to get to that point. I don't want you to operate at that point where you feel that it's just all too much because it doesn't have to be that way. And the image that kind of comes to my mind is like this pendulum swinging, right? Where you get to that point of like complete overwhelm. And then it's like, okay, I need a break. And that's the other side where of the pendulum where you take that break. And people say, like that saying comes to mind of build a life you don't need a holiday from. Now, I interpret that as build a life that you don't need to go on holidays to calm. to relax, to unwind. Build a life where being calm, grounded, relaxed, and sustainable is part of your DNA. Because otherwise, when you go on that holiday, you are going to be exhausted and burnt out and probably not going to enjoy yourself as much as you would. So that's how I want people to be able to build their life, build their business in a way where your nervous system is actually grounded more often than not, rather than living in that state of anxiety. Because living in that state of anxiety, it's exhausting. It is so exhausting. But how do we do that? That is the $1,000,000 question. And how can we set up our 2025 in a way that is actually sustainable? The first part is to recognize your stress response or your anxiety response. What does your body show you when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious? What does it do? Chances are you will start noticing that your body is stressed when you're at that point of complete overwhelm. And you might say things like, well, I'm really irritable, I'm snappy, I find it really hard to concentrate. I sit on my phone and doom scroll, or I binge watch Netflix. I don't want to do anything. Or you might notice that your heart races faster and your breathing changes. You might notice that your sleep is like it's harder to get to sleep. You might find that you have insomnia, or you wake up a lot more during the night. You might notice that your appetite changes, that you're eating more or less. Those are all signs that you are feeling stressed or anxious. And when that happens, that's usually at a point where you are at that 7 or 8 out of 10, where it's kind of at that point where it's like, well, I'm reaching like my upper limit here. But what we really don't do a lot of is identifying, well, okay, what are the signals that we have when we're starting to feel stressed? And I do this work a lot with clients, and a lot of them find it really fascinating because we don't talk about it, we don't think about it. But I say to them, okay, so if you can identify a 7 out of 10, how would you identify a 1 out of 10? How would you identify just that tiny little bit of stress? And I always am fascinated by that look of bewilderment in their eyes, like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that before. And so that's what I want you to think about is your stress levels. And if you were to kind of chart it from 0, which is kind of calm, to 10, which is like, oh my gosh, I am like volcano explosion, overwhelmed, can't deal, going to burn my business down to the ground. How do you identify your stress levels at each point on a scale of 0 to 10? Because I tell you what, when you can identify your stress levels at 1, 2, 3, and you do things at those levels there, you set boundaries and you say, you know what, I can't take on a new client right now, because you know that you're at a 3 and that taking on a new client will boost you up to a 4. And then that client will be really demanding and want things done really fast, which is then going to add more pressure, which will then bump you up to a 5. And then you're going to have your kid fall over and need to go to the emergency department because they broke their arm. Then, boom, you're up to a 7. So, knowing those earlier stress, anxiety responses is going to help you to be able to manage your emotions more effectively so that you can actually take earlier action rather than waiting until you're at that point of a 7 or an 8 and going, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. Because I know that I'm not the only one that does that. I work with a lot of clients and they tell me that they do the exact same thing, and it's not a fun space to be in. And if you're able to think about this, then it's really going to help you go into 2025 with a clear understanding of how you can recognize your stress response so that you don't get to March, April, May and go, oh my God, I am so overwhelmed. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that I coach my one on one clients with. It is stuff that I go through in the Aligned Wealth Academy, which is my group program that helps you heal your relationship with money, because this stuff is important to be able to understand, because when you get a grasp of how your emotions show up and when they show up, and you can start to take earlier action, my gosh, it's powerful. It's so powerful. And you start to feel more empowered because you're no longer waiting for that volcano explosion to happen, or that pendulum of pushing yourself to exhaustion and then taking a break to occur. You're able to care for yourself in ways that are going to nurture your nervous system, keep you calm and grounded more often than not, and actually reduce the amount of anxiety that you experience in your business. And is going to actually help you make more money, because your brain is not going to be so consumed with all of that overwhelm, and you're going to be able to think a lot more clearly. So there's so many benefits to actually taking the time to slow ourselves down and to be able to understand ourselves on a deeper level. And I love helping people understand themselves more so that they can slow themselves, their thoughts, their mind, their body down, and create a life and business that just feels sustainable. So, the way that I would recommend to do that is to grab a piece of paper, like an A4 piece of paper, and just draw a straight line, smack bang in the middle, and label that line 0 to 10. And in increments of 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you might find yourself playing around with it a little bit. My clients will often play around with it quite a lot because they don't know the difference between a 7 and a 6, or a 7 and a 6.5, because it's hard. It can be really tricky because, again, we don't think about this. And jot down, what do you notice about yourself and your stress and anxiety at a 7, at a 6, at a 3? How do they differ? And how do they build upon each other? Because being able to do that is just going to give you so much valuable information. And when you have that, then you're going to be able to think about, well, when I'm at a 3, what's helpful for me? Because what's helpful for you at a 3 is not going to be the same thing that's helpful for you at a 7. And if you'd like more support on this is exactly the stuff that I work with my clients in my one-on-one program and the Aligned Wealth Academy. So if you are listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, and have just had a massive mind explosion, because I know for a lot of my clients, this is a massive mind explosion, reach out. I would love to chat with you about this and see how I can help, because it can be really unfamiliar if you haven't done it before. And I totally get that. And it's something that I love helping people to work through. And if you do have a go at doing this and you do pull out that piece of paper, send me a DM on Instagram. I love getting DMs from you, hearing about how the podcast has helped you learn more about yourself and learn more about your relationship with money. And it just warms my heart so much. So please reach out. I really do love hearing from you. And I really hope that this episode has been helpful to get you thinking about how you can move in 2025 in a way that feels safe for your nervous system, that's going to help you feel grounded so that you don't have to get to the middle of the year and have a freak out. On that note, I'm going to end the episode here with a reminder for you to go and have a look at the Aligned Wealth Academy. If you are ready to heal your relationship with money, if you are ready to do that deep inner work and really get to the root cause of your subconscious relationship with money and heal that, and you want some ongoing support from a registered psychologist who is a money coach, go check it out. I'm going to leave the link in the comments for you. I would love to see you join. At the moment, you are going to also get access to early bird pricing. If you're listening to this down the line, you might have missed out on that, so I'm sorry. But for those of you who are listening right now, you are going to get access to some pretty epic pricing, which is great for you. So have a look at the program. If it's something that you have been thinking about in terms of your relationship with money, now is a really good time. And I can't wait to welcome you. Sorry, my dog is just floating around my legs, doing little circles. I'm like, what are you doing? But can't wait to welcome you into the program, and I would love to support you through that. All right, I will see you back on the show next week. Until then, take care.